Hey YouTube, Dawson Ryder here. Welcome to my review for Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger episode 12. So this episode was kind of a big episode in the sense that we debuted both Stacy and TwoKaiser's mech forms, at least one of his mech forms. It's kind of weird though because for the most part, like the main chunk of the episode was just kind of your run-of-the-mill episode, and then it wasn't until the end that lots of stuff happened. But I think it resulted in a mostly solid episode. Because the premise of this week's is about this snail monster that basically causes a Roy time freeze. It causes people to freeze up. And you get Juran and Majin get caught in it when they're kind of out for the day, and like these kids want their autograph and they're upset because the kids like TwoKaiser and they're sick of hearing about TwoKaiser, and they get like Roy frozen, and then TwoKaiser shows up and he's like, I hate to admit it, but I'm glad he showed up, and he gets caught in it because it's not like he freezes them directly, he creates like a freezing zone, so TwoKaiser like lands in it, and they get stuck in there, and the other Ranger's on the outside, and TwoKaiser's sister stops them from getting stuck too. So they're trying to sort of figure out what to do and try to figure out how to free everybody. And then meanwhile, the villains are cooking up something, which is clearly Stacy's mecha throughout the whole episode. That's kind of running throughout the episode as they're trying to get that going. And you have like the snail villain is talking to our Mr. Tank guy, whose name I'm forgetting at the moment. I'm probably never gonna learn his name, so I'm just gonna call him Tank Joe 2.0. Tank Joe 2, the streets. But he's talking to him and he's like, guess what? I trapped the guys. He's like, why didn't you murder them? And he's like, oh shoot. And so he goes back to try to murder him, and then he gets stopped by like this explosion shield that TwoKaiser put up. And it turns out like when they were stuck, TwoKaiser was just dancing around and Juran thought he was just being stupid, but he was basically setting up a barrier kind of based off of the attacks he did last week, so that was smart. But then the Rangers are able to free him using the Turbo Ranger gear, which makes everyone go faster. And it's really funny because you know, if you were watching this and you're not more familiar with the Sentai stuff, it's just funny because Turbo Ranger is the older car Sentai, and then the one that would become our Power Rangers Turbo, our Turbo Rangers is called Car Ranger there. The only reason I bring this up is not to be pretentious, like, oh, I know more Sentai than you, but the only reason I bring it up is in case you didn't know. And also, whenever I think about that, it feels like the Sentai version of the fact that in America we call football soccer. Like, I don't know why, but I always think about that. They're like, oh, you Turbo Power Rangers, you mean Car Ranger. But they use that to free everybody, and then we get our first like all-together morph sequence, and then it looks like we're gonna get a 6 Ranger roll call, but we don't. It's really funny because Zenkaiser's like, the 5 of us, oh wait, the 6 of us. He's like, please. And so he's not a part of the roll call. I thought that was pretty funny. But we blow up our monster, we get into the big fight, and then when we get into the mecha, the problem he's having isn't the slowdown, but it's his snail shell like being hard. And that sounded... a lot of snail shells are like that. Funny though is I always talk about how I like that the big monster of the week changes to like the playing field so that it has something unique about the fight. And other than the fact that his shell's real hard, again, a lot of snail shells are like that. There's not really anything changed about the field other than he just sprouts a bunch of snail shells everywhere. I like how that's just the change. But this is when everything starts to go down. That's what, a lot of things are like that. Anyway, too much, too far. Anyway, that's when Stacy shows up in his robot, which they call TwoKaiser Robo, which is really funny considering like Stacy's design is based off of Battle Fever J. That was like the first technical Sentai Robo, so that was kind of cool. So he's fighting, and then TwoKaiser wants to get in on the fight because I guess that the brothers and his sister kind of cooked up something after last week and they want to get more involved. So they debut the first mecha formation, which is the Shinkenger based one, which I think looks pretty cool. You know, I've always liked the designs okay. I was a little mixed on the toys a little bit from the pictures. Obviously, they don't have the toys yet. But seeing in action, I think it looked pretty cool, honestly. And so we get kind of a dual fight where, I almost said Stacaesar, where TwoKaiser is fighting the monster of the week, and then you have Zenkaiser fighting Stacy in the corner. Nobody puts Stacy in a corner. It's a pretty cool fight just because they do this rain thing later, and it puts it in like this night rain fight, which just like looks really cool cinematography-wise, and there's a bunch of cool shots. But he basically defeats him, and then Stacy winds up leaving, and it just kind of ends there. You know, well, it does end on a scene with Juran earlier was noticing that like TwoKaiser was saying, oh, he needs to do everything by himself and not get help from his family, and he was like trying to do a lesson of the week. He's like, no, I understand. Like, I know they'll help me and they're part of my team, but I still need to do this on my own sometimes or whatever. So that was just kind of funny. But like, I found this episode to be like pretty decent. Like, I enjoyed it. The stuff with the snail stuff had some funny moments. Juran's just general distaste for TwoKaiser throughout the episode was also pretty funny. Like at one point he was singing a song about how the Zenkaisers are better or whatever. I thought that was just generally pretty funny. And I found it to be pretty solid. And then I did like that there was all kinds of stuff going on. I liked the debut of TwoKaiser's mech. Like I said, it looked good. The fight looked good. And I do like Stacy's mech, and I like the debut of it, but I feel like we kind of unnecessarily rushed it. Zenkaizers, or I keep wanting to say Zenkaiser instead of Zenkaiger. Zenkaiger's so weird in the fact that sometimes they really take their time with stuff and other times they smush everything together. Like, we took our time introducing everybody. With TwoKaiser, we mostly took our time in terms of debuting him and his forms and his mecha forms. But then, like, everything about Stacy and TwoKaiser together is just so squished together. And as much as I liked seeing Stacy's robot form, and I did like how they kind of seeded throughout the episode them working on it, it just felt so kind of rushed because he just showed up to be like, okay, your opponent is me, okay, I'm gonna leave. And it just felt so tacked on because we also debuted TwoKaisers that I kind of wished that we had saved it for a different episode, or maybe like next week after we've already debuted TwoKaiser's Mech and he's just doing the second form. I don't know, it just felt like that could have been spread out a little bit to sort of give more content room to breathe, or maybe like Stacy would have been even more motivated to get his Mech off the assembly line after TwoKaiser showed up. It wasn't a huge deal because it made for an entertaining fight, and I did like that having like 4 players on the battlefield sort of made it more different than a regular fight. But I just wish it was a little bit stretched out because, like I said, Stacy's just felt tacked on in a way. Like, after all that build-up throughout the whole episode of, like, we're working on it, and they foreshadowed it last week, he basically just showed up, he fought the guys for a few seconds, and then we focused on TwoKaiser's Mecha, and then once the TwoKaiser Mecha fight was done, he just kind of left. But that was just kind of what I was thinking about it. I don't know about you guys, whether you'd like to see it, like, stretched out a little bit more over the course of more episodes and sort of give each debut its time to breathe. Other than that, though, I found it to be an enjoyable episode. I thought it was solid. I'd probably give it a 3 out of 5. Like I said, it was weird because it was kind of like just a normal, average filler episode almost, and then at the end there was all kinds of big stuff happening. But who knows? I'm still enjoying it. What did you guys think of the episode? What do you think of Stacy's Mech? What do you think of TwoKaiser's Mech now that we've seen it in action? Let me know in the comments as always. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe, climb the steps, ring that bell so you can get my videos. Dawson Ryder, signing out.